Here we are. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. So we just saw Mr. John Kovacs Jr. He was awesome. Now I hope you got a snack, used the bathroom if you needed to. Mr. John Kovacs Jr. was on, and now we're going to feature Mr. Benjamin Fincher. I've known him for a little bit of time. I feel like I've met him in person, dozen or 2 dozen times probably. At events we've been at the same time. I know he's an awesome, awesome person with some awesome, awesome lessons that he can teach you. And without further ado, I'm going to turn the time over to him.
All right. Well, thank you, Philip. Glad to be on with you guys today here in Studio Spotlight 9. Awesome stuff we got going on here. And to give you a little bit of an introduction about myself, and particularly the topic I'm going to be talking about today. So I was homeschooled since day one. My parents were like, okay, well, his older sister started reading before she can go to kindergarten. So do we wait to send them, or do we just try and teach them because they're already learning what they're going to go back and learn? Well, thankfully, they decided to homeschool. And they said, only weirdos do that. And, they weren't wrong. But the fun thing is that it enabled me to get a different education from life from day one. And part of that, I remember my dad had us read the book The Giver. I forget the author's name right now, but that was a really interesting book from the aspect of one particular line in it that my parents kind of adopted into our family culture. And that line was precision of language. And those of you that have read the book may or may not remember that. I don't think it was in the movie that they made of it. And it became part of what we did in our family. And you get that classic, hey, can I go to the bathroom, or can I do this, or can I do that? And then you get the snarky response, I don't know, can you? So that one happened more than a couple times around the family dinner table or just in general. We learned to say, okay, may I play on the computer instead of can I play on the computer? Because it was like, I don't know, can you play on the computer? It's like, yes, I can play on the computer. May I play on the computer? And in some ways brought some smacks to us, but in other ways it really gave us the opportunity to realize, oh, there's a lot behind the power of language. And today I want to talk to you guys about the power or the essence behind words. And I remember one other particular turning point in my life where I really became interested in words and language is the first time I saw My Fair Lady with Audrey Hepburn. Or Audrey Hepburn. But that movie where it was like, oh, this person that's in the slums in England can be taken and just taught how to enunciate and speak clearly. And then all of a sudden her entire life changes to the point to where her dad doesn't even recognize her when they run into each other, and to where she can be mistaken for a completely different nationality later at another point because she speaks so well. I'm like, whoa, that's cool. And it just kind of blew my mind. I was just like, language has that kind of power. And I've just kind of had that interest since that point. And as I've learned more throughout the years, recently I read an amazing book called Aspire by Kevin Hall. And power-packed book there, and really opened up my mind to the essence of words. And to kind of give a little bit more on that, you can really begin to understand that words have essence when you look at the word like love. Now, if you're familiar, the ancient Greeks had at least 7 different words to describe love, from eros to like agape to pragma to philia. There were a lot of different words that they used to describe love. And those ranged from a romantic kind of love to a familial kind of love to even a self-love. And they were like, okay, like this word has so much to it. Like we need to break it up into these other parts because there's so much here. And that word love has a huge essence behind it. And at its heart, I feel like it's deep feeling of care, sacrifice, and affection. And that goes along with any kind of true love, in my opinion. Um, and an interesting experience I had the other day is my wife and I were at the bank, and it got brought up that I knew Spanish. And we were talking with this person that was helping us get some accounts set up. And they're like, yeah, I remember I tried to learn Spanish in high school, but I just couldn't get it. I kept having to translate in my head from English to Spanish. And it was just really hard and I could never get it. And I told him a couple things that surprised him. One, like, look, when I learned Spanish, I was still translating in my head from English to Spanish until I finally had enough experience in the language to say, okay, now this word means this instead of this word in English means this word in Spanish. It was, oh, this concept, this idea means this word in Spanish, or this word in Spanish means that concept or idea. And being able to use it interchangeably instead of, oh, this thing I know in English is also this thing in Spanish. It became synchronous and I could think in either language. And they were just like, whoa, like, that's cool. I'm like, yeah, so you're not alone there. You just needed to keep going. The other thing I told them that really blew their socks off, just as much as it did when I first learned this. You've heard the phrase, a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? Have you ever heard that a word is worth 1,000 pictures? When I first read that, and that's in this book Aspire, where I first heard that from my friend Kevin Hall. A word is worth 1,000 pictures. I was just like, whoa, are you kidding me? Like, that's cool. Wow. And it just opened up a whole new word to me, a world, a whole new world to me. And it was like, whoa, like, you mean that I can say like crystal or lantern or plant or lighthouse or vase or chair or computer or bottle. And all of a sudden, it makes sense that all these images rush into your mind when I say those words because those words are so commonplace in our day to day lives that it's just, oh, yeah, I automatically associate this picture or this image in my head with that word because they're one and the same to me now, which is the same thing that happened to me as I learned Spanish. It was like, oh, instead it's now vaso and faro and planta and all these different words that meant those same things I just said, like vase and lighthouse and plant. It's like, oh, now they mean the same thing. And it started to make me realize, I'm like, wait, words have an essence to them. Like everything in life has an essence to them, but including words. And to realize, oh, that sounds like this word, even though it's a different language. The two words sound similar because they share that same thing, that same essence. What gets really interesting is when you start talking about theoretical or intangible things like love. It's like love isn't a lighthouse, love isn't a plant. It can be related to those things in examples. But if I say a plant, that's definitively something physical you can go out and touch. If I say lighthouse, that's definitively something physical you can go touch. But if you talk about love, if you talk about trust, if you talk about truth, if you talk about positivity, if you talk about knowledge, those are things that are not physically tangible, but yet because we have associated words with or different scenarios and feelings and circumstances with them for so long, it now becomes one and the same. And that word now has developed an essence to it. So yeah, when I told this bank lady that, she was just like, wow, I think I'm gonna have to try learning Spanish again. I'm like, yeah, because think about it. If a word's worth 1,000 pictures, you're not learning another language until you've got at least like at a minimum 10, if not 50 pictures to go with that same word, which kudos to a lot of language learning softwares that do that. They're like, hey, this picture means this word, or this word means this picture. It makes a lot of sense when you start to get into it and really dive deep. Now, this concept of the essence of words really starts to become relevant to us as we learn how to apply it to our own lives. And you might be like, okay, well, this is all cool and everything, but like, does it actually apply to me? Like, can I actually say, yes, let's take the essence of words and now apply it to me? It's like, okay, cool. Love is all these things, and trust is all these things, and a lighthouse is a certain thing. And all these things I could like say, yes, there's an essence behind it, but how does that apply to me? Well, let's take this example. One area that's commonly overlooked is found in a daily practice for a lot of people, where they take a word and they associate the exact opposite meaning to that word as they use it in their speech or writing. So you take a word, and then instead of it meaning this thing that it is, they turn it completely around and it means the opposite. And what is this, you might ask? It's sarcasm. And to explain this further, sarcasm in its meaning, the root behind it, means to tear at one's flesh. It's not surprising in the least when you start to realize what happens. Taking that same example, so let's say someone says, I'm so glad to see you. And you can hear in the tone of my voice, if I was telling that to someone, I don't mean it. It's like, it's taking this super positive thing of joy or gladness to behold a person in front of you, and you're saying, I wish you were on the opposite end of the planet from me right now. And so your brain's like, well, usually that phrase means this, but now it means this. And so it literally rips the word apart in your mind and rips apart those neural pathways, and it has to create neural pathways for both versions of that word now. And now saying it in a nice voice, I'm so glad to see you today, becomes, okay, that's what it normally is, but I'm so glad to see you today, all of a sudden becomes this other version of a sarcastic version, but our brain now has to hold both versions of that, and it starts to tear that word apart in our heads. And as you start to understand this, it makes sense why sarcasm is to tear at one's own flesh, because you're literally tearing at your brain and ripping it apart as you use that. And so for me, sarcasm has become a foreign language because years ago my sister decided to stop using it and challenged the rest of our family to stop using sarcasm. And I was like, okay, cool. And she was like, okay, each time I say something sarcastic, I have to do 3 push-ups per time I say something sarcastic. And I was like, I'm just going to try and not use it. I don't really want to do push-ups. And just by having that intention and not wanting to do the push-ups, I started to get successful at it. And then when she came back from the trip she was on, and started being like, okay, like we're all in this, like no one using sarcasm, and would use sarcasm. And she'd be like, okay, give me 3. And I'd be like, I didn't want to do push-ups. I'm going to do better not using this because I don't even want to do push-ups. And I'd do the 3. And then I'd be like, I'm not doing this. And I did very few push-ups because I was really stubborn. I'm like, I'm not doing push-ups. I'm just going to get this out. And man, like when people say sarcastic comments around me now, I have to clarify with them. I'm like, hey, did you literally mean that? Or are you being sarcastic? And they're like, oh, no, I was just being sarcastic. I'm like, okay, because I don't understand the difference anymore. Like, I have to double check if you actually meant that, because it kind of sounded sarcastic, but I don't speak that language anymore. And it kind of shocks people. They're just like, what? And some of them are like, oh, good for you. And others are just like, It's like a daily part of my life. How can you not do that? And I have had to find other ways to release emotions that get released with sarcasm, but it's given me betterment to my life. It's given me more clarity, more integrity with myself and with others because I'm not meaning two things or the opposite thing when I say something. I mean what I say and I say what I mean. And so, with all of this, I invite you to reconsider using sarcasm in your life because it's not worth it. Like, you're literally tearing your brain in half by using it. So from this day forward, I invite you to see different ways that you can remove sarcasm from your life because the neural pathways are getting shredded and that's not good for your brain. So see if you can start to make sarcasm a foreign language to you. And I invite you to challenge your family and to start doing 3 push-ups each time someone says something sarcastic. And obviously everyone has to be in on it, but you can just encourage your family, say, hey, I'm doing this. If I say something sarcastic, mom or dad has to do push-ups. Like if you're the mom or dad. If I had kids, I'd be like, okay, kids, if dad says something sarcastic, he has to do 3 push-ups. They'd be like, okay, we want to see daddy do push-ups. Like, you pretty easy to get your family on board with that one if you decided to do it. And it's worth it. And in order to share more with you guys on the essence of words and the power behind them and how they play into our lives, I've started coming up with a course, a 12-week course called Word Essence. And for those of you wanting to learn more, the offer I've got for you today, normally the value behind this is $1,800 for the value of what I'm going to be sharing in this course. Because it's a pilot program, I'm offering it for $497 because I'm still figuring out the kinks and how to do everything with it. But each week for an hour, we'd be doing this on Thursday mornings at 8 o'clock. We would get together for an hour, learn about a different part of the essence of words. I'd give you different opportunity assignments that you can go deeper each week on your own time to be able to say, okay, let's go deeper on this. Let's dive deeper and apply this more to me instead of just learning it. I've had numerous people, friends and strangers, tell me that I really have a dominance and a mastery of language and of words. And so I'm excited to be able to share this wealth of knowledge with you guys over this 12-week course. And because of Philip and this amazing Studio Spotlight 9 that he and I think Chip have been the main collaborators on this and put together, for those of you listening to this presentation, I'm actually going to bump that price down to $197 until Saturday at midnight for you guys, because I know that there is a lot that can be done with words, and in this day and age, it's really important that we get in on this. And because you guys are here, I'm offering that special price to you because you want to make an improvement in your life, and I want to facilitate it here for you as well. So in order to sign up, head on over to my website, starlightmentoring.com. That's one word, no hyphens, no spaces, starlightmentoring.com. Click on the Book Now tab up at the top and scroll down until you see the course Word Essence, and you can sign up there. And again, it'll be Thursday mornings at 8 a.m. starting next Thursday, February 18th. Thanks, Philip. Thank you, Studio Spotlight 9. This has been an awesome time. It was great being able to listen to John Kovac Jr. earlier. And thank you all for listening, watching, and being with me today. And back on here with you, Philip. Any questions that you think anyone might have for us before we finish this one up?
I don't think so. I think you did amazing, Benjamin.
Thank you.
That was awesome. I know I learned more about words just from being here listening for like 20 minutes that you were here. Like, I didn't know there were that many different words for love in,
Right?
like, we have one. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's like in English, it's just like love. In Spanish, they kind of have two, but the Greeks were like seven.
What? I learned so much. I hope everybody else learned a ton as well. Hit starlightmentoring.com. Make sure you also like, comment, share the video so we can get Benjamin some things going. And then I know after seeing this week some of the people we've had on here, people are going to want to know, hey, how do I get on Studio Spotlight 9? Well, on the Facebook group, there is an application form. It's in a Google Doc. Click on it, you fill it out. And Benjamin, I know you filled it out. It was
Yep.
not very complicated, was it?
No, it's simple. The biggest thing is, at least for me, it was just figuring out what I wanted to talk on because I'm like, there's so many things, but man, let's go hit hard on words because there's a lot there.
Absolutely. So if anybody else, now I know there are people out there that are going to want to be featured on here. Fill out that document. Towards the bottom of it, what you're going to get is a link, a calendar link, so you can schedule a time to meet with me. And in that time, we can even work on what exactly it is. You know, you might not be sure exactly what you want to talk about on here, but you know you got something. And
Yeah, I mean that's what I did with you, Philip. Is I was just like, I know there's so many things I could talk about, but let's hone in on this. And that time with you was really beneficial for me to be able to say, okay, let's hone in on the essence of words.
yeah, I mean, I knew that as soon as you showed me the book and you just started talking about it. I was like, he's excited. This is something important.
Yes, yes, it
And
is.
I know I learned a ton about words. I know everybody else probably did too. Thank you for being here, Benjamin. I was so glad you were here. So excited
You're
to.
welcome.
All
Thanks
right.
for having me, Philip.
Oh, you're very welcome. Okay, everybody. Like I said, fill out that form on the Facebook page. And then I will see you next time on Studio Spotlight 9. Bye, everybody.
See ya.